Hello and welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, national elections are delayed once again, but for how long as political infighting continues? Coronavirus defense measures hit a snag in schedule while infections balloon again. And a hospital in central Israel looks for a helping hand in keeping up with the growing caseloads. Now, to begin, Israelis across the nation woke up to a very wet country following flash flooding and heavy storms that continued all night and into Wednesday morning. Dozens of people needing to be rescued from stranded cars, and residents in central Israeli cities Herzliya and Ramat HaSharon having to be evacuated from their flooded homes by emergency first responders. Major roadways were also shut down, causing huge disruptions in traffic, and the downpour is expected to continue full strength at least until Thursday, with temperatures likewise dropping. Meanwhile, just in case things weren't severe enough, the rains have been kicking dust clouds high into the sky, prompting the Environmental Protection Ministry to issue air pollution warnings across the country. But at least there is one positive note: Israel's freshwater Sea of Galilee, or the Kinneret, which has long been plagued by drought, rising overnight by 3 centimeters, or just under 210 meters below sea level. In other news, yesterday was apparently opposite day as the so-called Jewish Voice for Peace panel entitled Dismantling Anti-Semitism took place. But why opposite day? Well, because of the choice in panelists for the online event, which included Peter Beinart, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, Mark Lamont Hill, and Barbara Ransby, all of whom, JVP included, have themselves been accused of anti-Semitism. And joining us now with more is Chen Mazig, Senior Fellow at the Tel Aviv Institute. So, Chen, what were their main arguments, really? And was the panel what you anticipated it would be?
You've described it perfectly. I think it was a pathetic panel of that, contrary to their claims, that they try to make anti-Semitism into the same type of hatred that is just like racism and bigotry against any other community. They made it about Israel. It almost sounded like they are saying, and I think one of them actually said that without Israel there wouldn't be anti-Semitism. It was just ridiculous to watch people that have all engaged in anti-Semitism, have all had to apologize for anti-Semitism, speaking about it as experts.
Well, so, what did they exactly propose to fight anti-Semitism, though? Because ultimately that was the point of the panel, and we may not agree on their points, but what were they? Did they give anything concrete or actionable?
The sole focus was about white nationalism, and while it is important, and we need to remember that white nationalism and neo-Nazis have been causing much pain and were conducted deadly attacks against Jews around the world. It was just about ignoring anti-Semitism from the left, ignoring terrorism that killed Jews, and funnily enough, Barbara Ransby said that those who advocate for BDS and are anti-Zionists are not the enemies of the Jewish people. She actually said that the enemy is the kind of people who go into synagogues in California and open fire to deadly damage. And that's absolutely correct. But Barbara Ransby fundraised for Razma Odeh, a convicted terrorist that is no different than the Pittsburgh shooter or the other white nationalists that murdered Jewish civilians for political gain. Barbara led the fundraiser to get Razma Odeh out of prison, and Barbara was basically saying that this is not anti-Semitism, and to kill Jewish people if they're Israelis, it's basically a fight for justice.
All right. Well, I know that Peter Beinart at one point during the panel made mention of left-wing anti-Semitism as well, saying that needed to be addressed. So did that go any further than a throwaway comment?
Yeah, it was just a lip service. They didn't speak for once about left-wing anti-Semitism, and they tried their best to steer clear from speaking about actual anti-Semitism. The feeling that you got from watching this panel was that these people are committed to fighting anti-Semitism, and that they are all, Rashida Tlaib said how she's so committed to the fight against anti-Semitism, and that's something that everyone can say. But it's being against anti-Semitism means calling out anyone who endangers and dehumanizing Jews, regardless of their policies. And that did not happen in this panel. It wasn't about anti-Semitism. It was about redefining anti-Semitism for the Jewish people. And fighting anti-Semitism also means supporting policies not supporting policies that physically endanger and cause distress to Jews, which Rashida Tlaib has done before. And all of those panelists have, as we said, engaged in those type of policies, engaged in anti-Semitism, and made life really challenging and made Jews feel in distress. I mean, the responses to this panel online by Jewish people, hundreds and thousands of them. I mean, so much so that we had to come together and arrange our own panel of Jews to speak about anti-Semitism that is going to happen later today.
All right. Well, yeah, I was just going to mention, actually, that I understand that you have your own panel in response, so to speak, to this previous JVP panel. Good luck with that. Chen Mazik, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, with a reshuffling of the daily Knesset docket and a late afternoon filibuster, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party successfully delayed the dissolving of the Knesset and a return to elections for now. Likud lawmakers arguing that they're trying for last-minute negotiations with alternate Prime Minister Benny Gantz's Blue and White Party, which is backing the bill to dissolve. A last-ditch effort to stop the fourth Israeli elections in 2 years. Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud now meeting with partners Blue and White. But most agree that these negotiations are a smokescreen still likely to fail, as Netanyahu is reportedly demanding Gantz give up on his turn as premier, as promised in their unity agreement. So while the bill still needs to pass 3 Knesset readings for the government to dissolve, party leaders old and new are gearing up for a campaign. Starting with Gideon Sa'ar, the longtime Netanyahu rival recently resigned from the premier's Likud party to start the New Hope faction, which several other high-profile MKs, including fellow Likud member Yifat Shasha Biton, have now already expressed intentions to join. And this giving Sa'ar's new party a new boost in the polls, now projected to be the second largest party with 21 seats, behind the Likud with 27, and with the opposition Yesh Atid Telem party trailing in third with 14. Meanwhile, opposition party leader Avigdor Lieberman of Israel Beitenu is looking for new partners of his own, calling on Yesh Atid, Yamina, and New Hope leaders to unite against Netanyahu and the ultra-Orthodox bloc. He's even already outlined the would-be Unity Party's platform, including pushing for term limits for the Prime Minister's office and barring an indicted MK from being nominated to form a government or be elected president. He also calls for holding municipal and Knesset elections simultaneously to save on costs, installing a constitution in place of the basic laws, requiring all parties to appoint at least 3 women among their top 10 spots, and then a number of measures that challenge the balance between religion and state, like allowing civil marriages, introducing secular studies into Haredi school curriculum, allowing municipal rabbis to oversee Jewish conversions, funding public transport on the Sabbath, and finally expanding mandatory military or non-military national service to all Israeli citizens. Joining me now with more on the latest Israeli election news is Amnon Lord, Israeli journalist with Israel Hayom News. Amnon, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now, I guess my first question is, what do you make of the new polls and the defections from the Likud, including Yifat Shasha Biton and Gideon Sa'ar?
First of all, the most salient thing or point is that Naftali Bennett, who just a week or 2 weeks ago was on 20 mandates or 21 Knesset members in the polls, dropped suddenly to 13. It's more important to see this than Gideon Sa'ar, who is like the new kid on the block, coming up with 21. Now, the Gideon Sa'ar theory, his assistants also, his analysts, they say that Netanyahu is almost 30 years the head of the Likud, and he still didn't manage to gather all the right-wing votes in the Likud, and that Gideon Sa'ar, together with Naftali Bennett and the Likud, those 3 parties together can make a 60 mandates block, 60 Knesset members, and this is like a huge camp. But Netanyahu is unable to gather them and to unite them into one coherent bloc. Let's put aside all the important achievements of the current Prime Minister Netanyahu. He was successful in the economy. He did great job with all those peace initiatives lately, which broke completely the concept of the left that we cannot do anything with the Arab world unless we relinquish the territories to the Palestinians. He's running incredibly successful strategy against Iran. So you would say, and now we're about to get the coronavirus vaccines, which is another. You would think that people would have a little more respect to this kind of leader, but no, Israel wants to go again to the elections.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about that, and you mentioned earlier, of course, the imbalance or the really swift change to the polls, specifically, as you said, Naftali Bennett and the Yamina party dropping.
Because it's all temporary. We don't know what will happen with the elections. Will probably be like on the 23rd of March. Until then, Gideon Sa'ar could drop in the same way. So, if
I mean, are the polls to be trusted at all?
I want to make a point that until a few weeks ago, we could see that there is a right-wing bloc which is solidly on 65 to 70 Knesset members in the polls. Suddenly, with Gideon Sa'ar, this bloc disintegrates, and we can have a reshuffle of the coalition, but it's like something very unstable, you know.
Right.
Gideon Sa'ar, if he wants to be prime minister, he needs Bennett, he needs Lapid, he needs Lieberman, maybe even Meretz.
Well, so who has the most power to make something like that happen? Because right now, and maybe you heard me earlier speaking about Avigdor Lieberman, you know, because he was originally the kingmaker, and then that's changed.
Because
obviously.
He's not. I don't believe that Gideon Sa'ar wants to be the kingmaker, but I think the right-wing voters, at a certain point, they are going to internalize the fact that anything but except the traditional right-wing bloc of Likud, Yamina, and the Haredim is something that you cannot trust. You don't know. It's an uncharted map in the political arena. So I think Netanyahu counts on those votes to come back home to the safe Likud, the safe voting for the Likud.
Well, I'd love to get you back for future predictions when we know a little bit more and when we get closer to the vote. Until then, Amnon Lord, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
In other news, grim milestone followed by grim milestone. Just yesterday, health officials reporting the highest overnight coronavirus infection numbers since the middle of second lockdowns in October. And now they're reporting numbers even higher than that. Nittany Manson reporting.
The Israeli Health Ministry now warning that virus restrictions need to be tightened within the next 7 to 10 days, or else another general lockdown will be inevitable. And head of public health services at the ministry, Dr. Sharon Elrai-Price, saying that if we wait too long, the lockdown will be much longer than before and much more severe as well, including another closure of both transit and education programs. But this as the number of overnight COVID infections rose again to nearly 3,000 cases in 24 hours. The total active numbers of infections then also rising to a confirmed 20,112. Nearly 400 in serious condition, and the recorded death toll jumping to 3,030. Meanwhile, promised vaccinations from all over the world may not be as readily available as previously thought. Health officials admitting that the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine will not be made available to the public until early 2021, while Moderna's vaccine is still undergoing FDA approval, and the Russian Sputnik V vaccine has yet to even be ordered. That said, Israeli authorities still pushing vaccinations as our only way through the pandemic. Health Ministry officials, for one, releasing more details on the green passports that will afford vaccinated individuals more freedoms than their unvaccinated counterparts. Then, Israeli military brass is now reportedly considering mandating vaccinations among active duty soldiers, while top ultra-Orthodox rabbis joined the chorus, advising their respective communities that anyone who is eligible for the vaccine should get it, as it's been proved safe under accepted scientific methods.
On a related note, a new study on the long-lasting effects of coronavirus is now hitting at a very different culprit than you might expect: yourself. And the study, written by immunobiologists at Yale University, has yet to be published or even peer-reviewed. But according to the results so far, all of the reports of continuing illness like fatigue and breathlessness that linger long after coronavirus infection may actually be caused by our own immune systems and not the virus itself. The study's authors explaining that in their observations, COVID-19 patients often had a dramatic increase in autoantibodies, which made initial COVID infection symptoms more severe while continuing long after infection to attack healthy proteins in the body instead of those of the coronavirus disease. Well, if true, this could mean that simple immunosuppressive treatments might actually be effective in fighting the post-COVID syndromes. Now, while health officials continue wrapping their heads around just what exactly is going on with this pandemic, hospitals are still working to stand strong under the ever-increasing caseloads. With less than 500 treatment spaces and a crowded 250 square meter ICU, the Laniato Hospital in central Israel's Netanya still manages to serve over 500,000 people from the nearby communities. But with the growing weight of such heavy responsibility, hospital officials are warning that their current model is simply unsustainable. But given the hospital's mission, staff are far from throwing in the towel. You see, originally created in 1976 as a maternity clinic, the Laniato Hospital is the physical embodiment of a vow between the late Sanz Hasidic rabbi Yekutiel Halberstam and God, because after losing his wife and 11 children to the Holocaust, Halberstam, aka the Klausenberg rabbi, promised that should he himself survive, he'd open a hospital and save as many lives as humanly possible. Well, that's exactly what he did, and since then, the hospital has also extended its services to internal medicine, pediatrics, oncology, hematology, intensive care, and more. All Laniato needs now, especially in the face of the coronavirus pandemic, is to expand and support its struggling ICU, but they can't do it alone. With a projected price tag of 8 million shekels, the public nonprofit hospital is looking to quadruple its intensive care capacity from 6 beds to 24. While also adding living spaces for family visitations and meetings with doctors. So far, though, with the help of crowdfunding platforms, they've raised just 500,000 shekels, or 1/16 of the total cost. So what can we do? Well, the crowdfunding deadline is yet to expire. Laniato asking anyone and everyone who can to support their mission quick. And joining us now with more on the campaign to save Laniato Hospital's ICU and by extension, the 500,000 people it services. I'm joined by head nurse in Laniato's General Intensive Care Unit, Lydia Langsner. Lydia, thanks so much for being with us. Now, how long have you worked at Laniato?
I've been working Laniato since 1986, and I've been in the capacity of the head nurse of the ICU for the past 15 years.
Wow. So I'm assuming that you're very familiar with the mission statement at Laniato Hospital. What makes it unique to you?
It's a very unique hospital. The Klausenberger Rebbe, who created the hospital many, many years ago, wrote a kind of philosophy of care, which has been taking over almost all over the world, which is now called the way that people give care, respect the patient, respect the family, no matter who they are. Be the best you can, give the best quality you can, be very, very sensitive to family and patient needs, respect life, and do the utmost as far as professional work is concerned to save lives.
All right, well, so I understand that to that end, Laniato is now, of course, starting their campaign. It opened just ahead of the Hanukkah holidays, but you're asking for a fundraiser to expand the ICU department by 4 times. What can you tell me about this program?
It's been long overdue. The Netanya area is serving over 500,000 people. The needs of the community have grown tremendously. This ICU that counts 6 beds has been too small for many, many years. The coronavirus pandemic has shown us that we have the capability, we have the equipment, we have the know-how, we have the staff. We need more space. We need a better quality space for patients, for families. We need to be able to isolate and quarantine patients who are in need of quarantine. Right now, it is done because of the pandemic, but not in the condition that we feel are quality for patients and family. And this is what we're hoping to accomplish with this campaign.
So can you expand a little bit more on why this fundraiser is relying so heavily on public support, though, when Laniato is a public nonprofit hospital?
Well, nonprofit hospitals rely on their service, on money that they're making from Kupot Cholim
And the HMOs?
for the service they're rendering, very heavily on donation and on the community that they're servicing. The government will sometimes, but not often, bring in some money. Right now, the money is not coming in for the ICU, although the need is there. Little funds, a shekel a day is something that everybody can do for a miracle which is saving a life.
All right. Well, I want to just say this to everybody watching at home. Anybody who can, if you find the link, you can find the link to the donation on ILTV's Facebook page below, and there are 48 hours left to donate. Look into your hearts, see what you can do to help achieve a true Hanukkah miracle. Lydia, thank you so much for being
Absolutely. Hanukkah Sameach to everyone.
with us.
And good health.
Now for our last story tonight, it is a Hanukkah miracle that none of these soldiers lost their lunch trying to get through this next mission. The IDF testing its soldiers' mettle in this holiday sufgania, or Hanukkah donut challenge.
Traditionally, Jews celebrate the miracle of Hanukkah by eating fried foods. So, we invited a few brave soldiers to taste the popular Hanukkah donut.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, this tastes like Hanukkah.
Yeah. That's jelly. No. No. Is this ketchup?
Ah, ketchup.
Ketchup! 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 Wow. Oh, I know what that is.
It's like a cream that's not sugary.
Mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise. Mayonnaise.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, no, that's mayonnaise.
That's terrible. That was actually...
Is that syrup?
Maple syrup. Nice. I've never had a donut with maple syrup, but it's a very good idea.
Can I save this for later?
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh no.
Love wasabi donut. Yes. I love wasabi.
No. Okay. I don't mind spicy stuff, but wasabi is just on the level of gross. So, no offense to wasabi lovers everywhere.
Wasabi.
Get that out of here. Happy Hanukkah!
Happy Hanukkah. Hard.
All right, well, watching that made me really anxious, but if your resolve is as strong as these soldiers' stomachs, then make sure to see the rest of the video challenge on the IDF Instagram account. And with that, let's take a look at the weather forecast. As you might expect, tonight and tomorrow should both be rainy with flash flood warnings across the country, and lows tonight averaging 55 degrees Fahrenheit or 13 degrees Celsius. Then tomorrow, as the downpours continue, the high is expected to stick at about 64 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 degrees Celsius. And now before we go, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel. Oh, my favorite video ever. I don't know how viral this is, but let's make it viral. This is my own wonderful dog in slow-mo eating bubbles. It was as fun to watch him do this as it was to watch it again now. All right, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.24 shekels to the American dollar and 2.55 shekels to the Canadian dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Aaron Porras. Thank you so much for watching.